South Africans are getting used to petrol prices around 26 Rand per litre or higher. Increases of between R2.37 and R2.57 per litre were implemented today. Another all-time high comes after several increases that represent a dramatic rise of more than 60% since January 2020, so over 2.5 years. We're now joined by Visvin Reddy, National Convener of People Against Petrol and Paraffin Price Increase, or PAPPI. Thank you for being with us, Mr. Reddy. That 60% is based on petrol costing around 16 Rand in January 2020, and now we're heading to 30 Rand. When we get there, that'll be almost a doubling. Right now, for a 50-litre tank, you're looking at around 129 Rand extra with today's price hike, but it's the cumulative increases over time that's really punishing South Africans, isn't it?
Absolutely. The latest increase is devastating, and it is the final nail in the coffin for most South Africans. And at a time when people are really suffering and reeling from the aftermath of the lockdown, COVID lockdown, and the economic crisis that we're currently under, these fuel increases are going to have a detrimental impact on most South Africans, not just motorists in general. Now, what we need to look at are solutions. And in South Africa, we do have solutions. South Africa is actually a fuel-producing country. And that's what your viewers need to know today. Sasol was a state-owned entity created in 1950, and it makes fuel from coal at a far reduced cost than your traditional fuels made from crude oil. So at times such as these, we need to start focusing on using Sasol fuels. Now look at Sasol. Sasol, over the years, has amassed massive fortunes in respect of its profits. It makes profits because the fuel prices are regulated by government. And because you're paying a certain amount for Shell and other fuels, you're paying the same for Sasol. And what we're calling on government to do is to deregulate the price of petrol and cap Sasol prices. And we believe in 2017, the cost of manufacturing Sasol fuel was just under 4 rands a litre. So currently, we can reduce the price of fuel in South Africa to less than 10 rands a litre. We are sending Sasol fuel to neighboring countries, and it's cheaper to buy Sasol fuel from Botswana, for example.
So this is really interesting, and a lot of people have looked at it over the years. Sasol does benchmark itself against the global fuel price. However, you're talking about a democratic state now constraining a private company, telling it what to sell its goods at, and then how do you keep Sasol pumping out the petrol? It's already a large chemical company looking at a multiplicity of things and trying to move away from dirty energy anyway. So maybe it'll just stop if the profits aren't there.
Sasol was a state-owned entity. It only became private on this date in 1989, when the government reached a compromise with the National Party government. And what people need to know is that ANC, NEC members like Penuel Maduna, who was the first minister in the Mandela cabinet for energy and minerals, he is a shareholder of Sasol. He amassed millions because of it. Max Sisulu, another ANC leader, found themselves as shareholders of Sasol. So it begs the question, has the ANC compromised the constitutional rights of South Africans by allowing its members to become shareholders of a company that would benefit South Africans in times such as these? Sasol was created to mitigate against the foreign factors, possible sanctions by oil-producing countries against South Africa. This was done by the apartheid government. Now, our government, instead of looking at Sasol as being a solution at times such as these, we are concerned about the profits of a company that ought to be a state-owned enterprise. I can understand the concern by most people. Look at the way SOEs, many of them are being run currently. But I think that at a time such as this, where South Africans are literally bleeding because the price of petrol has become unaffordable, and experts warned this week that if these prices continue escalating the way they are, we will find riots and looting of a kind that will make what happened last year in July look like a kitchen tea party.
Yeah.
And that's not what we want.
However, some would argue that nationalising a private company, taking it over by the state, given what's been going on in SOEs, like you say, is dangerous. Firstly, you could lose out on tax revenue and you could have implications for investment across this economy, and we could land up all the poorer for it. Is there any other solution looking at where we are today?
Currently, we are paying close to 40% in fuel taxes and levies. These generate an income of around 80 billion rands to the government. Now, if the government decides to put the people first in this country and remove fuel taxes and levies altogether, you will find that our fuel prices will reduce by 40%. But we are looking at fuel levies, at increasing fuel levies to cover things like what the toll roads would cover. But the fact of the matter is that we are using these taxes to pay for corruption, to pay for state capture, to pay for mismanagement. 13 billion rands of the taxes that we pay in fuel goes to fund the 8 metropolitan municipalities in this country. The Auditor General found that just 16% of municipalities have a clean audit. That tells you that these municipalities are failing, yet we will continue funding them through fuel taxes. Now, what we need is for the government to realize that this is a matter that is of concern for South Africans. You would know recently the 22 million rand that was planned for the South African flag, that this was shelved because of the outcry from South African citizens on social media. So what we say to South Africans is don't sit back and keep quiet about this and accept the reasons being given by government and some political parties. The fact of the matter is government can intervene, and they will intervene if we make a loud enough noise.
Yeah, well, that brings me to my final question. People are feeling the pain, they're feeling the pinch, but how many have cared enough to join your organization, and what exactly do you plan to do?
Right. Now, this is the problem. You know, people are quick to complain, but very few are there to act. But I've seen today in Bombela that protests have already started. We don't want to degenerate into a country of lawlessness. We believe that protests are legislated, it's constitutional, it's our right to do it. And South Africans now need to become creative. They need to find ways to protest, need to find ways to hold picket demonstrations, etc. As PAPPI, we are linking up with other civil society organizations, with unions, and other even political parties that share our vision to bring fuel prices down, to join us. This should be a campaign for all South Africans, irrespective of your political affiliation, irrespective of your social standing, because the fuel prices affects everybody across the board.
Yeah. All right, thank you for your time. The National Convener of People Against Petrol and Paraffin Price Increase, or PAPPI, Visvin Reddy.